Hi, this is a video for reviewing the case assignment 2, which is a distribution center location analysis for Granger's company. So Granger's company, they import a lot of products overseas, and all of the products will arrive to two U.S. entrepôts. One is in Washington, and while another is in California. And once those products arrive in the entrepôts, after passing the customs, all of the containers will be shipped by rail to the distribution center of Granger's, which is in Kansas. And all the containers need to be uploaded and do the quality checking in Kansas. And once finishing all the stuff like in this distribution center in Kansas, all the containers will be shipped to other regional warehouses of Granger's. So in this table, you can see that we have like the Granger's has different regional warehouse. Depends on the demands. All of the containers which are arrived in Kansas, this distribution center will be delivered to other warehouse. And for these problems, like currently the Grangers only have one distribution center which is in Kansas, but now they are considering about to upgrade the Los Angeles warehouse to include a distribution center. So the question one asks you to calculate the total cost for current system which only one DC, while the question two asks you to calculate the total cost if the Grangers have another DC in Los Angeles. So this is like the first two questions you need to answer. And once you obtain some results based on question 1 and 2, you will be able to answer the question 3 and 4. So here it is. And the logic of calculating the total costs for different systems are actually the same. Now we just need to divide the cost into two parts. The first cost we consider about what is the total cost in the DC, which is in the distribution center, because once the products arrival in DC, whatever you only have Kansas or you have both Kansas and Los Angeles, you need to spend $5 per cubic meter to process it, and you also need to spend like 0.0018 to transport those containers to the different warehouses per CBM per mile, and we also have another $3 per CMB for checking for the unloading cost. So this is like different types of the cost will happen in Kansas, or if you upgrade the Los Angeles warehouse to a distribution center, this is like the total cost in the distribution center. And except for that, we also have another freight cost. This is also the transportation cost for the Kansas two different warehouses here. So and the truck freight cost will be 0.022 per CBM per mile. So this is another big portion of the cost. And when we calculate the total cost, we consider these two portions. The first portion is like the total cost in distribution center, and including the transportation cost for the ports to the Kansas to the distribution center. And another big portion is here, the trunk freight costs to the different warehouses. And how to calculate the total cost for the current system, here it is. So this we consider the first portion, and this is like the total cost for the processing and the total cost for the unloading and also the real cost for the ports, the entry ports, which is like in Washington and in Los Angeles to Kansas. So we know that the 40% of the importing products will for the Seattle to Kansas, while the rest, the 16%, will for the LA to Kansas to the distribution center. So the total CBM is 190,000. So 40% of 190,000 will be 76,000. So we just use the 40% times the total CBM, then we will know how much CBM for the Seattle to distribution center. For the current system, we only have one, which is in Kansas. And then the processing fee is $5 per CBM. So we just use 5 times the total CBM, and then we will have the 380, and the same we will have the total port processing fee for the importing products in LA will be 570,000. So this is the processing fee. Another fee here we need to consider about is the real cost. So we have two entry ports, which is Washington, the Seattle, and the Los Angeles, and we need to transport those importing products to Kansas, and which is like 0.0018 per CBM per mile. And we know that for the let's back to the Excel file here. So the distance for the Seattle to KC will be 1,870, while the distance for LA to the KC Kansas will be 1,620, and the real cost will be the 0.0018. So what is the total costs, the real costs for Seattle and LA respectively? So we just use the real cost per mile per CBM times the total miles times the total CBM. So this is the total real cost for Seattle to Kansas. And the same, we just calculate the total real cost for the LA port to Kansas. And the last thing we need to consider about here is about the unloading. Unloading in Kansas currently is only $3 per CBM. So we use 3 times the CBM here for the Seattle to Kansas, then we will have the total cost, the total unloading cost, and the same we will be able to calculate the total unloading cost for the importing products for the LA port to Kansas. So this is all the total cost, and then we will be able to calculate the total cost for the importing products for the Seattle and for the LA respectively, and we just sum all of them together, and we will be have the correct answer here. So this is like the first portion we consider about the costs in Kansas in the distribution center. And another great portion cost is like once all the importing products arrive in Kansas and we do all the checking, then the importing products need to transport from Kansas to other warehouse. And here is the table for the demand for the miles, and we know we will use the truck instead of the rail to transport them. So the total cost will be like the sum of all the cost to all the warehouses. And because the distribution center is in Kansas, so we don't need to pay any transportation fee for the Kansas demands, but for others, we just use the truck freight costs per mile per unit times the total miles times the total demand. So we will have the cost for each warehouses, and then we just sum all the costs together, and we will be able to have the total cost for the freight. And then we just finish all the analyzing about the cost. And the total cost for the current system, we just sum these two portions together. So we have 5,682,558 for the current system. So this is like how we answer the question 1, the total cost for the current. Now the Granger is considering about to change the LA, the warehouses, to another distribution center. So the logic about how to calculate the total cost is the same, but we just have the different numbers and different things we need to consider about here. So for the new system, still 40% importing like products come to the Seattle, while the 16% come to the LA. So the CBM are the same. The processing fee per CBM is still $5. The distance is different, so the real cost will be different because currently the LA will be another distribution center, so we don't need to transport the importing products to LA, but we still need to transport the Seattle to the LA. So this is how much we have. And for the unloading cost, for the current one is $3 per CBM, but now for the LA distribution center, it increases to $5. Some of the students made a mistake in this port. In this portion because they still use $3 instead of 5. But for the LA, this distribution center, it increases to 5. So the total cost for the unloading will be changed, and the same, we just use exactly the same way to calculate all the processing fee, the real cost, and the unloading for checking costs. And then we will have the total cost. We just sum both of them together, and we will be, this is the total cost for the first portion, and we also need to consider the total cost for others. But here the situation is kind of different. So once we have all of the things like transport to Los Angeles, we know that the only 16% will like stay in the Los Angeles, and other 18% will stay in the Los Angeles distribution center, and other 82% of the importing products will be will need it to transport to Kansas, another distribution center here. So except for like the freight costs to other warehouses, we need to add a transshipment cost to Kansas, which is like 82% of the total CBM, and the distance for LA to Kansas is 1,620. So the real cost will be 0.0018 times the total CBM times the distance. So we have the real cost here. And once you finish calculate the two costs here, then the rest of the cost you need to consider about is actually the same as the current system. So we just calculate the truck cost. But now except for like we don't have any Kansas truck cost, we don't have any truck cost for Los Angeles either, because we have already like stored the 18% over there. So the total freight cost will be like the cost for other warehouses here, and the total cost will be 2,355,430, and the total cost will be the sum for all of the cost here. So you may find that I have another 350,000, which is the operating cost. Actually, except for the operating cost, we also have a one-time upgraded cost, which is 1,500,000. So some of you sum the three this operating cost as well as the one-time upgrading cost together, and you may have the total cost for the new system is like over 6 million. And some of you didn't like consider about the 350 the operating cost. Some of you just like use the exactly way I show you here. All of this like the analyzing are correct, so it depends on like whether you sum the operating cost and as well as the upgrading one-time cost. If you don't, you will have like some money around to these numbers, but the logic is the logic is the same. So once you based on the result here, you probably will have that idea. We should like upgrade. If you were the manager in Grangers, you should like upgrade the LA as another distribution center, because it can help you to save money compared with the current system here. Even you need to invest more, but you will get that money back in around 3 years. So here is all the information for the case assignment 2.